Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running and nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, how you doing? Welcome into the program. So today on the show we have computer and technology news for the hour. A lot of different stories, everything from some changing environment from ProtonMail to everything about Coinbase, this whole thing with Bitcoin, what's happening with El Salvador of all countries. They have tried to make Bitcoin an official currency, and most shops have to actually fully embrace and accept Bitcoin as legal tender, which can be it's a big transition. It's the first time that we've seen an entire country kind of try to legislate cryptocurrency into an actual currency. So everyone, welcome into the program. We hope that you're having a great time and you are ready for today's program. ComputerAmerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, everything you need to know about what we do here at Computer America. Hey, you can of course find it there on our website. Also, you'll find you'll find past shows, future shows, show notes. You can find the podcast. Of course, you can also hear Computer America wherever podcasts are heard, and links to social media. So there you go. And definitely in our own kind of life. And again, since we're going to start with cryptocurrency and all that good stuff, we are going to, of course, talk about El Salvador and what's happening there. But even here in the United States, there's a big push to get cryptocurrency and particularly Bitcoin into circulation. Try to get people to accept these things as actual currency. Even in our kind of smallish town in Asheville, there was, and it's so at the same time though, it's so weird because they wanted to, or at least they were going to soon accept Bitcoin through Visa. I guess Visa is working with some partner to provide Bitcoin. And then on top of that, they were selling books about how Bitcoin was going to be the savior of, the universe. They were going to revolutionize the way that currency is handled, and Bitcoin is going to save us all. Now, there's a lot about cryptocurrency, and I think we'll try to keep cryptocurrency towards the front of the show. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So everyone, here we go. Computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. So for our first story, we're going to go ahead and head on over to the BBC, and they mentioned that Bitcoin crashes on first day as El Salvador's legal tender. And this is kind of an issue because, this is something that people who are very invested in cryptocurrency were looking at El Salvador's kind of rollout. It's kind of as best of a test case as you can before you head into a much larger market, because El Salvador, I'll admit I'm not an El Salvador expert, but they are a rather small economy. They say that it's not that many people over there. The economy is really, really small, and the amount of currency actually here, 40, the current Bitcoin rate is like $43,000 or $52,000. It was 52, and then over the past 12 hours, it has fallen to 43. Very volatile, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with what's happening over there. Because the embracing of cryptocurrency as actual currency has been rather slow. It's been seen as a way to hold investments, to transfer funds, but as a way to kind of walk in somewhere, pay for a product, pay for a service, and walk out. That has been cryptocurrency's real weakness. Some places do it better than others, but no one's doing it on a national, large-scale level until, well, El Salvador was supposed to do this today. Everyone was supposed to comply, and everyone is supposed to accept Bitcoin immediately. Well, and even beyond that, something about the president of El Salvador, they actually try to codify cryptocurrency into their not declaration, their constitution, that cryptocurrency is a thing. So they were really trying to embrace this. Now they say that an opposition politician said that the fall caused one of Latin America's poorest countries to lose $3 million. That's right, and that's all from the crash. Because obviously, if you want to use it as a currency, then you have to have the currency to back that up. So they were holding, So they were holding X amount of cryptocurrency. It fell 12%. So it sounds like they were holding about $40 million worth of Bitcoin, and then it fell, and the government, which is not that rich to begin with, lost about $3 million overnight. They said that the rollout of Bitcoin in El Salvador was far from what the president would have envisioned when he began his bold experiment. Platforms such as Apple and Huawei weren't offering the government-backed digital wallet known as Chivo, and servers had to be pulled offline after they couldn't keep up with user registration, which, if you have ever played a very, very popular video game at launch, or if you have ever tried to, really, if you've ever really tried to, do something that everyone is trying to, a good example would be here in the United States, which, you would assume we had a much better infrastructure, even when you had like the open marketplace for healthcare, and they said, okay, this is going to be up and running. You have to sign up for it. You have to do this. And then lo and behold, everyone went and tried to do it, and it crashed the servers like all at once. So yeah, even in places with notably good infrastructure can't handle these large sudden spikes in users. And for them to say everyone has to start accepting this, everyone has to sign up for this, everyone has to create accounts, download apps, do this, that, or the other, and start to, really embrace this, they just weren't ready for it. They mentioned that, but as the day went on, Chivo began appearing on more platforms and was accepted by the likes of Starbucks and McDonald's. The government has given Salvadorians $30 each of Bitcoin to encourage its adoption. It says Bitcoin could save the country $400 million a year in transaction fees on funds sent from abroad. Which you now see why this is so important to the government. Clearly $400 million a year in transactions. Those are levied from, your largest banks and financial institutions, and transferring funds from the local currency to overseas. It makes a lot of sense. They also mentioned that, however, using the data from World Bank and the government, the BBC calculates this closer to 170 million, essentially saying, yeah, they might have inflated it just a bit. Now, they mentioned that we must, quote, we must break the paradigm of the past, the president said. El Salvador has the right to advance towards the first world. They mentioned that a gentleman who runs a family shop in San Salvador, where customers buy essentials like rice, beans, and cleaning products, he's well and truly on board, saying that during the pandemic, it will be nice to not have to use physical cash. And he mentions that it protects him from customers paying with counterfeit notes, which I can imagine being a real problem over there. Now, they're saying that what wasn't good timing for Salvador was the tumble Bitcoin took on its first day as legal tender, falling 20% at one point, saying it was a very bad day for the president, his government, and his Bitcoin experiment. The majority of the population knows very little about cryptocurrencies, and what we do know is it's a very volatile market. Today was surely made manifest. And I have to be honest, I would even dare say that because this was the first day of this big experiment, that is the reason why a lot of the cryptocurrency really took a dive, because a lot of people that hold cryptocurrency and, sometimes very big movers in the cryptocurrency space, they wait for big events like this and then they sell out. They ride up the hype of El Salvador is going to be using this as currency. You're about to get, millions of new users, regular active trading and stuff like that. This is going to be the beginning of this, and people ride that initial enthusiasm for a product like this. And then, those few cryptocurrency investors that actually have a lot of Bitcoin at their disposal, they transfer it to Ethereum. They move their money elsewhere. They actually make these movements possible. So I would not be surprised if, people actually sold out of Bitcoin due to the fact that, these big events have happened. Essentially, they're thinking that this was the peak, cause a little crash, buy back in when it's lower, and hey, they're all the better for it. But of course, for everyday users, that is not what you want. They said that the majority of the population knows very little about cryptocurrency, and that the Bitcoin law was approved in Parliament with hardly any debate. It took only about 5 hours to go through, which I'm going to say ill-advised, but there you have it. We're not cryptocurrency or Bitcoin haters, but we don't believe that it should be compulsory, that businesses should be obligated to accept Bitcoin as payment. The state is backing these payments and assuming the risk, but at the end of the day, us taxpayers are all the state, which is, all well and good. They mentioned that they were holding, $30-40 million in Bitcoin. So regardless of the fluctuations, the government is going to make sure that at least for its citizens and its users, that their investment, if they buy into Bitcoin, if they use Bitcoin, then they will have the same purchasing power as they would the day before. It's not very good to imagine that your entire population just lost 10% purchasing power because of this dip that just happened. That'd be very, very bad, I believe is the word for that. So Mr. Right Soul isn't the only critic. More than 1,000 protesters gathered outside the Supreme Court, where fireworks were set off and tires were burnt. Beyond financial instability, some say that the adoption of Bitcoin may fuel illicit transactions, because there's also that whole thing where, as much as the government says that they're going to save a lot of money on Bitcoin transactions, let's be honest here, at the end of the day, they're going to also have to deal with this idea that, well, Bitcoin is hard to really monitor, track, trace, all that good stuff. I mean, you can have official wallets and, you can have all these government programs set up, but the nature of a decentralized supposedly anonymous Bitcoin whole, kind of system that you have set up here means that if you want to, let's say, collect taxes, that's going to be very, very difficult for people who are holding a lot of their money in Bitcoin. But Mr. Hernandez, the shopkeeper, is not put off by the volatility, saying, I see it as a risk, but like everything in life, there's a risk. When we own a shop, sometimes we buy a product and we don't sell it. When others see crisis, though, I see an opportunity. So clearly there are going to be those who are, very much for this and worth the risk and all that kind of stuff. But there's also going to be others that can't afford to take a risk like that. And it's going to be a very bumpy ride. And as I said before, we have other news about cryptocurrency, and I believe it's this story, the next one, and then we should be good to go. Let's talk about this one, Coinbase. Coinbase has a bit of a struggle here. And this might have also led, and it's really impossible to say that one person, one wallet, one transaction, one event, one thing really affected cryptocurrency by and large with this huge dip. But you can take all of these in tandem, and you end up with a bad day for crypto. Here was another case where Coinbase goes nuclear after SEC threatens to sue over crypto loans. And Coinbase, if you don't recall, they were a startup. They are now publicly traded. They're one of the largest companies and exchanges for cryptocurrency. Exchanges, of course, turn one cryptocurrency into another or into regular fiat currency. So if you wanted to go buy currency, you would go to Coinbase, put in your debit card, pay for Bitcoin. They would transfer the Bitcoin to your wallet. They handle the transaction, the handshake, all the good stuff. So that is what Coinbase really does. They are the intermediary between a lot of the cryptocurrency transactions from one cryptocurrency to another to one currency into cryptocurrency. Now, they are publicly traded, so as a business, they take a little bit off the top. They're essentially like a bank in some ways, where, they take fees and processing fees and all that good stuff. Well, one service that they were looking into getting into was this idea that, you could, and while it's very ill-advised, you could hold your currency in a wallet that is hosted on Coinbase. So Coinbase essentially still has the currency, you just have dibs on it, and you can, of course, transfer it to your own wallet, which you should always do. You should always make sure that your currency is safe with you. But now they're looking to turn that around a little bit by essentially saying, lend us your cryptocurrency, lend us your Dogecoin, and we will lend your Dogecoin out to other business ventures, much like a bank, maybe. And they would loan your cryptocurrency out and then give you interest based off of how much you loan them. So very much like a bank, except you can't really loan the bank money. And, it's kind of a backwards thing here in the United States where you put your money in a bank and then the bank charges you fees for holding it. But no, it's kind of the other way around where you loan your money to Coinbase and Coinbase would then pay you a fee so that they can take it and put it into riskier investments, but of course they would absorb any kind of risk that would be there, and you just get a small fee for doing that. Now, the SEC said, that's a bad idea, and we don't like you doing that. So let's find out why. They mentioned that they had gone public with a regulatory fight over a plan to offer high-yield cryptocurrency loans that the Securities and Exchange Commission threatened to sue over if the exchange launched the project. The cryptocurrency loans industry is booming, with billions of dollars of value locked up in the crypto equivalent of savings accounts that offer much higher yield than you might find at a bank. Now, according to a blog post, Coinbase was planning its own entry into the field with Coinbase Lend, which was what the service was going to be called, wherein customers could lend tokens to third parties via Coinbase to receive interest payments. Notably, the fine print states that Coinbase is not a bank, and funds lent through the service would not be protected by FIDC or SIPC insurance, which, if you recall, back before 2008 and the financial crisis, used to be like $100,000. It was bumped up to $250,000. Essentially said, if anything goes wrong, you are entitled to at least $250,000 of your money in liquid assets, so that if you want to withdraw your money, you are at least guaranteed that much. Very helpful to prevent situations like the 1930s stock market crash and the Great Depression. Well, because they're cryptocurrency, because they're not technically a bank, they would do all of the processes and all of the same payments and stuff like that a bank would do, just with none of the protection, which the SEC says that's really bad. Imagine if while not technically a bank, and although it does everything like a bank, but with no protections that banks have to afford their customers, they would also shake a stick at that as well. According to Coinbase, the SEC suddenly put the brakes on Lend last week and threatened to sue the company if it went ahead with the planned launch. Coinbase claims that at an initial meeting with the SEC, regulators told the company that it considered Lend to involve a security, but didn't provide detailed reasoning. Coinbase went ahead and announced the lend publicly, but didn't set a launch date. The SEC then opened an investigation and demanded records from Coinbase, including a list of everyone on the lend waitlist, which the company claims not to have handed over yet. That one is weird, though. Why would they want the lend waiting list from the company? That one does not sit well with me. Clearly, showing interest in a product should not put you on the government's watch list, but here we are. Now that regulators have threatened legal action, Coinbase says it has been offered the chance to provide a written defense of lend to the regulator, but claims it can't do so without knowing the specifics of why it believes lend is a security. And again, I'm not the best with financials, but the difference between security and currency, I can't even begin to explain that one. So according to Coinbase, the most the SEC has said is that it believes lend is a security under the Howey and Reeves framework, two common legal tests to determine if something is a security. Whether lend is a security or not is important, because if it is, then Coinbase would be subject to the whole set of rules, processes, and regulations that may make such products unviable to offer to everyone in the US, or else risk offering unregulated securities. There you go. And also unregulated is fancy speak for illegal. And yeah, if you're trying to run a publicly traded company, illegal is not the way to do it. In a blog, Coinbase denied that lend qualifies as a security, saying that customers won't be investing in the program, but rather lending the coin that they hold on Coinbase platform in connection with their existing relationship, and that Coinbase would have an obligation to pay this interest regardless of the broader business activities. So, Coinbase is at least offering, we're going to try very, very hard, and we're going to honor our debts. Please trust us. But it sounds a lot like a security. Now, clearly the SEC says that they're trying to protect investors from harm. And of course, Coinbase, while they are publicly traded and they're worth a lot of money in a very emerging market, that does not guarantee that their customers are going to be safe from Coinbase. So trying to get a tighter grip on this, and this was to be expected, definitely. So shutting these down would arguably be harming consumers more than protecting them, and by preventing Coinbase from launching the same thing that other companies already have live, they're creating an unfair market. That's what the CEO of Coinbase wrote. So the notice of pending enforcement block against BlockFi will be interpreted by other companies offering similar products as a warning shot, and essentially saying that just because they went to Coinbase first, and because, hey, let's face it, Coinbase is also the largest in the whole market. Just because they're going after them first doesn't mean that others are above oversight. And this is probably just a warning shot saying, hey, be careful out there. We are going to keep a close eye on you. Coinbase said it will not launch Lend until at least October. Although at this rate, I doubt that they ever will. So there you go. And I think that the last cryptocurrency, and then we'll go ahead and wrap all this up. The last cryptocurrency story we have is someone who unfortunately misused cryptocurrency. And this is my motherboard. And yeah, crypto investing club leader spent investors' money on jewelry and real estate. Because, hey, what you do with a bunch of money that you have access to, hey, it's apparently jewelry and jewelry and real estate. So check this one out. They say that Michael Ackerman pleaded guilty to wire fraud and also spent ill-gotten funds on private security guards. So at least he knew what he was doing was dangerous, and then went about and did it anyways. So Michael Ackerman, 52, the leader of a fraudulent cryptocurrency fundraising group who stole $9 million worth of cryptocurrency to buy real estate, Tiffany jewelry, and private security guards, pleaded guilty to wire fraud on Wednesday. There you go. Saying that he, as he admitted today, he raised millions of dollars in investments for his fake cryptocurrency scheme by falsely touting monthly returns of over 15%, falsifying documents to con investors into thinking his fund had a balance of over $315 million, and spending millions in investor funds on himself. Now he awaits sentencing for his crime. And beyond the jewelry and the private security services, Ackerman also used his funds to travel and buy vehicles, the announcement adds. That's actually awful. And, clearly, if you are trying to use your cryptocurrency, just as I said, Coinbase is still trying to get into the space, and they were saying that this is a scheme that is already being utilized, that people are already that they're already offering their customers. It's like, on one hand, clearly highly unregulated, SEC is trying to step in and regulate one of the biggest players, or would be one of the biggest players in the industry if they were to go live with this. But to others who are trying to take their cryptocurrency and put it into investments, you have a bunch of situations like this where it's so unregulated that this gentleman was able to lie, cheat, steal. There's no standard in reporting. There's no standard in, they don't have to have a balance sheet that is then reviewed by actuarians or tax consultants or anything like that. They just made everything up on the spot and were able to rake in about $10 million of people who were just looking to invest, put their currency somewhere that it would actually grow. Starting around 2017, Ackerman and others started an investment fund where participants would send US dollars with the hope that Ackerman would invest it into cryptocurrency. The investment fund claims it was earning around 15% each month, which, the little I know about investing, if someone's offering you 15% a month over month, like cryptocurrency skyrocketed. There were days where it would go up 20, 30, 40%. There were months where it went up 100, 200, 300%. But those months were usually followed by months of contraction, negative 20%, negative 30%, negative 40%. Cryptocurrency is a volatile market, and volatile does not mean only goes up and up and up. Volatile means it can go down. And if they're promising 15% every single month, that's too good to be true. And that's something that, unfortunately, so many people don't really take to heart. That if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Later in 2019, Ackerman claimed that the fund had grown in value around $315 million, but Ackerman had faked screenshots to lie about the 15% profit and $315 million fund total. Ackerman faces a maximum sentence of 20 years and has agreed to pay restitution of at least $30 million, which actually, if you want the true number, $30,667,738.79, as well as forfeiture of $36 million, including the jewelry which he had bought with the fraudulently gained funds. Cryptocurrency attracts all kinds, and people who are doing this illegally, people who are looking to take advantage of others, cryptocurrency is just all about that. So everyone, I hope that you stay safe out there. If you are into cryptocurrency, I'm not saying that it's completely smoke and mirrors, but in all honesty, there's probably a small group of people that control what cryptocurrency is doing, and you are probably not in that small group of people. So there you have it. Cryptocurrency. I think we're going to go ahead and move on to other topics that we have here. We have a ton of different things. How about we talk about a little bit of China? Wouldn't be a good show without a little bit of China thrown into the mix. And now China has thrown down the gauntlet, because they have been taking on video games. They've been taking on movies. I heard just a couple of days ago that they had banned Western movie stars from appearing in their films, Well, looks like they are now taking on the dramatic world of K-pop. Yes, the insidious world of K-pop. Well, they say that Chinese social media site Weibo suspends 22 K-pop accounts. And for those who don't know, and because K-pop is one of those things that's pretty polarizing, those who aren't into K-pop are like, oh, K-pop, who cares? But then those who are into K-pop, which is Korean pop, for those who really don't know, but those who are into K-pop, man, they are diehard fans of their favorite K-pop stars. Well, China says enough of that. A group of K-pop fans in China have become the latest victims of a crackdown on celebrity culture. 22 fan accounts have been suspended by Chinese social media site Weibo for Sina Weibo for what is called irrational star chasing behavior. That's right, the government banned them for irrational star chasing behavior. They included fans of Korean pop band BTS who crowdfunded on the platform to customize an airplane for singer Park Ji-min's 26th birthday, which, to be fair, I think a lot of people would say that is pretty ridiculous that they would, crowdfund on a social media platform so that 26-year-old could get his own custom plane. But I digress. Weibo accused one fan account of illegal fundraising for the stunt. In a statement, the company said it firmly opposes such irrational star-chasing behavior and will deal with it seriously. Once again, a lot of the news coming out of China is, while clearly you're not going to have a lot of people defending this kind of thing. Like, no one is in their right mind going to defend kids playing video games far too much. No one is going to defend, tax evasion, which is what a lot of these stars are getting caught up on. But at the same time, to have the government come by and say that what you're doing is stupid and we're going to ban it, or what you think, what you feel, what you want to do is stupid and we're going to regulate it, that is something that is so anti kind of our ideals in the West that it always strikes me as very silly. Now, they say that it also pledged to purify, and that is the direct word, purify, online discussion and regulate community order on its platform. So essentially, yes, you better fly right, according to the government. They say that the BTS account was suspended from posting for 60 days. Other accounts supporting other K-pop acts were given 30-day bans. And they say that the move comes amid a wider clampdown on the entertainment industry in China. Last week, 2 government agencies published guidelines saying that they would ban broadcasts for vulgar internet celebrities and feminine-looking men. The true corruption in our system, feminine-looking men, because they do not portray the values the country wants to promote. Yeah. So in June, the Cyberspace Administration of China also announced 10 measures to clean up what it called the chaos of celebrity fan clubs. There you go. Because they have a Cyberspace Administration of China. Who knew? It said it would prohibit activities that persuade children to contribute money to their idols and disband social media groups that are deemed a bad influence. Attempts to rank celebrities based on popularity will also be banned. So again, trying to get rid of the clout chasing type of social media promotion that happens all over the world. Earlier this year, media analysts told the BBC that Beijing was increasingly concerned that fan clubs could mobilize, either in person or online, to stage protest for their favorite stars. Essentially, any way that people would come together and form protest groups, social groups, or these larger networks, China is looking to kind of nip that in the bud, try to stop that before it becomes an actual problem. And by the way, this woman that you're seeing up on the screen, if you're watching the video portion of the show, that would be actress Zhao Wei. And for those who don't know, she was completely, I think she spoke out against the Chinese government or was accused of tax evasion or something like that. And there's the again, there's two different internets. There's the Chinese internet, and then there is the internet that we all kind of go on. And it seems almost impossible, but the Chinese internet completely wiped every reference to actress Zhao Wei from their internet. Like, she existed, she was big in the 90s. It'd be like trying to take Jennifer Aniston off of the internet. Like, she never existed. It was like that big of a deal. But they did it. It took them about a week, but they erased a lot of that. And actually the article wraps up with that, saying that stars, and now it seems their fan clubs increasingly face stringent censorship and serious consequences if they fall afoul of the authorities. One of China's most prominent actresses, Zhao Wei, was all but deleted from China's internet, with her films and TV shows taken off streaming platforms and her fan page deleted from Weibo. Social media users also censored when trying to discuss Zhao, who starred in films like My Fair Princess, Shaolin Soccer, and served on the jury at the 2016 Venice Film Festival. She was not someone who was unknown. She was a very, very big star. They mentioned that the state newspaper for China said no official reason had been given, but referenced historical allegations of financial impropriety against Zhao and her husband, which again essentially was tax evasion. There's another one found, another actress who was found for the same thing after being fined $46 million for tax evasion. Of course, whether or not the whole tax evasion thing really holds up to scrutiny, if they actually did that, or if that is China's just kind of go-to accusation to get someone arrested and wiped off of the face of the earth, well, we'll never know. But clearly, China is cracking down on celebrity culture. Again, to a lot of people, I feel like they're not going to defend celebrity culture all that hard. And, some people are going to find it dumb. Some people are really into it. But still, for, impropriety, for, essentially saying that kids are encouraged to donate money to these people that they should not be encouraged to donate. I mean, the whole thing just reeks of, overstepping. But when you're the Chinese, when you're a Chinese Communist Party, I don't think there really is a thing as overstepping your bounds, because you have no bounds. Now, how about this? How about overstepping your bounds, but this one in California? Let's bring it back home. And I read about this story like a day or two ago, and I'm glad that I found another source for it. Just in the past day, where a California man, if you didn't hear about this one, he had been, caught selling printer toner. And in a day and age where, let's face it, a lot of us don't really print things anymore. We all have cameras, we all have phones, we have email, everything's electronic. How big of a problem can this really be? And then you hear that he was sentenced to 4 years in jail after selling, in one case, in just 6 years, $126 million worth of printer toner to unsuspecting victims. And those include offices, schools, business, government agencies, churches, all that and more. Yep, overcharging a lot for the humble printer toner. Full disclosure, completely, ask me now. I could not tell you how much a commercial printer toner cartridge should cost, but I would say less than what this guy was charging is a safe assumption. No, so this is my MarketWatch, and kind of a fun story, but at the same time, just goes to show that people are always out there for themselves. Gilbert Michaels is the gentleman's name, and for those who don't know, he's actually been selling printer toner since the 1970s in California. And actually, back in the 1970s, prosecutors say he had defrauded more than 50,000 victims in the country over the years, and he had actually been caught saying that, I guess his whole scheme was he would charge people for printer toner. He would provide printer toner. He made it sound like that he was, him and his company were the ones who were actually producing the toner. Instead, he was purchasing it from someone else, and then he was marking up the price and paying as much as 10 times the retail price for toner. He then was convicted of many other conspiracies, including mail fraud and money laundering in December 2019, and some of the accusations, and he was actually slapped with a restraining order back in like the 1970s. So what happened recently was that he violated a 40-year-old court order to not mislead his customers into thinking that he was actually producing the toner cartridge. But hey, scammers gonna scam, and that's exactly what he did. Among the victims were the Humble YMCA, a California country club, a Christian preschool in Alabama, a tow truck company, and a steelworkers union local in Kentucky. In pre-sentencing court filings, Michael's attorney said that their client was a Navy veteran in poor health, going with the defense of, he's too sick to go to prison. He's too old to be sentenced in this. And yeah, I mean, the gentleman is almost 80 years old. He probably is, starting to decline in health, but not decline enough to defraud nonprofit organizations, apparently. Now, they said that the charges against him were rooted in the cutthroat nature of the toner business, and that many of the allegations were based on accusations from biased competitors. The lead attorney for Michaels declined to comment. During a 6-week pretrial, prosecutor said that his company, IDC Servco and Mitel International, handled billing and shipping of the toner cartridges while relying on separate boiler room outfits to make the sales. As part of the scam, the telemarketers would pretend to be representatives of the toner supply companies many of the businesses already had contracts with. The telemarketers would then tell the victims that the price of toner had increased, but they could buy it at the previous lower price. Believing that they were dealing with their regular suppliers, the victims would sign order confirmation forms. IDC would then ship the toner to victims along with highly inflated invoices. When the companies would complain, they would threaten legal action or turn them over to collections if they did not pay. There you go. If IDC did agree to take the toner back, it would demand significant restocking fees. So one way or another, they were going to get their penny. Authorities caught on to the scheme in one case where IDC sent inflated invoices to a Southern California storage company that only used typewriters to do business. Think about that. They sent invoices for toner cartridges that only used typewriters as businesses. Essentially, this business was not even subject to this type of service, and they were getting these scam calls about that. One aspect of the fraud was that telemarketers didn't disclose that they were working with IDC. Prosecutors said that was a direct violation of several court orders that they had in the late 1980s, in which Michaels and his companies were required to use independent sales companies and were prohibited from making false statements. 6 other co-conspirators operated the boiler room call centers, and there you have it. So, much like dial-up, you think about technology of the past that's hopefully would be a thing of the past, like, although toner's not exactly a thing of the past, printers are still widely used in corporate America today. But still, you think that it would be a known technology. People would know how much it cost. The price would be reliable, dependable. You would have your sales stream kind of go about. But hey, they shove themselves into the middle of the restocking and the resupply of these things, and there you have it. All unfortunate circumstances. So we'll see how much time he gets. I think he was given 4 years. We'll see how much of that he actually will be given, but that was pretty crazy to me. Okay, so for our next story, and that was story number 5, by the way, story number 6 that we have here. How about a quick update? I think Gmail is one of the most used products or services in the country. It's actually very, very good. And I think a lot of people really do enjoy Gmail. So it's always notable when Gmail gets a new service. They're saying that the Gmail app will soon make voice and video calls. And Gmail is quickly becoming Google's do-it-all app, where Google is keen to make Gmail your go-to hub for more than just messages. As they've noted, Google is rolling out a larger workspace update that will add direct calling via Google Meet to Gmail mobile app. Essentially, and I don't know why Google took so long to kind of do this. It's really unsure, why they did this, but let's see. So they said that you'll be able to ring up your coworkers and other contacts for a quick one-on-one when email or scheduled meetings won't do. The feature will also send a chip to your computer if you'd rather answer on the larger screen. And chip, by the way, is like an alert, a toast, what have you. The fact that they waited so long and they were trying to use other services to, try to get this whole meetings, hangouts, so on and so forth. Yeah, it's surprising that it took them so long to just roll it into Gmail. The company has pitched the feature as a rough equivalent to spontaneous office chats in a hybrid work environment where some staff are at home. And before you ask, the Meet app will eventually add this calling feature as well. So other tweaks include the option to specify whether you're in office or virtual on any given day, and a companion mode for Meet that lets you use a conference room's audiovisual hardware. Google is expanding its Meet hardware ecosystem, so on and so forth. Essentially, Google's ambitions for Gmail are fairly clear. Much like Microsoft Outlook, well, it's becoming a gateway for all office communication, not just email and the occasional meeting. That's not surprising when Google is directly competing with Office. At the same time, it does raise questions about support for dedicated apps. What need is there for other clients when Gmail theoretically does it all? Still, you might not mind if it saves you from switching apps and potentially losing focus. So there you go. This idea that Gmail is going to be the ultimate productivity space. It's not just about messages, but also spontaneous meetings as well. Good change. I don't think a lot of people would be opposed to that. So there's that one. How about we can talk about, let's see. You know what? We have these two stories here, and I think we have time to cover them both. ProtonMail. They've come up on the show every now and again, and the real purpose behind ProtonMail is this idea of protection, security, being anonymous, so on and so forth. They were the go-to way to stay secure in an era where more and more email clients were scanning for keywords, serving up ads, tracking users, tracking messages, the whole Edward Snowden thing and all the email access and providers and so on and so forth. Well, ProtonMail was an encrypted email provider promising to keep you safe and secure in a day and age where everything was being tracked. But these next two stories show that maybe things have changed a little bit. Saying that the ProtonMail is under intense scrutiny for sharing the IP address and device details of a French climate activist with French authorities, and for marketing and transparency reports critics say provided users with a false sense of being anonymous and security. Hard to say that word. A French police report, first spotted by TechCrunch, indicates ProtonMail provided law enforcement the IP address and device details of a French activist protesting gentrification and climate inaction in Paris. The group drew significant attention for occupying Le Petit Cambodge, a restaurant targeted in the November 2015 terrorist attack in the French city. Last week, the group issued a statement on their site, an anti-capitalist news site outlining various police inquiries into the group. One inquiry involved French police sending a Europol request to ProtonMail, which, if you don't recall, ProtonMail has always said, everything's encrypted, we don't know anything, and we don't keep IP logs, so we can't track what users, what device, anything about who accesses ProtonMail. Not so much the case, at least not nowadays. They mentioned that the Switzerland-based ProtonMail isn't traditionally subject to French or European law enforcement requests, but the service does have to comply with demands from the Swiss court system, which required it to begin logging user IP information after receiving a request from Europol. Once the data was collected, the activist was identified and arrested. So not only did they share the information, but it did lead to a direct arrest from the information shared with this. Yen and ProtonMail, so the CEO of ProtonMail offered this, saying that Proton must comply with Swiss law. As soon as a crime is committed, privacy protections can be suspended and were required by Swiss law to answer requests from Swiss authorities. So encrypted until the government says, no thank you. Yen and ProtonMail also issued a blog post explaining their decision, noting that the request applied to metadata, and metadata is, of course, IP addresses, email subjects, send and receive times, but not the actual content of the encrypted communications. The company also noted that this metadata isn't provided for users of its VPN service, which, since VPNs are classified under are classified differently under Swiss law. Well, I've never heard anyone say that ProtonMail, oh yeah, use that, but also don't bother unless you have the VPN. No, I've always heard ProtonMail is for encryption and they don't track IP logs. But yeah, I guess now they're required to under law. Saying that, quote, the prosecution in this particular case was very aggressive. Unfortunately, this is a pattern we have increasingly seen in recent years around the world. There is no legal possibility to resist or fight this particular request. A recent ProtonMail transparency report highlights a growing surge in Swiss authorities' requests as law enforcement and government intelligence agencies around the world wage a growing battle against encryption, VPN use, and essential privacy and security tools. The company says it disputed 700 such inquiries in 2020 alone. That's a lot. And obviously, government agencies around the world, including, of course, those who are very anti-encryption. So think United States, Russia, China, other parts of Europe, very much anti-encryption, have been going after VPNs and a lot of these agencies very, very heavily. But VPN use, I think, has really gone up because of situations like this. So VPN use is on the rise, but always, of course, companies are offering more and more end-to-end encryption, which is all well and good. But to be frank, a lot of encryption just kind of sucks. It really does. So there you go. ProtonMail is specifically being criticized for marketing material that promises anonymous email and past transparency disclosures that claimed IP address logging only occurred in extreme criminal cases. And the fact that they're getting almost 1,000 a year, so multiple a day on average, means that, I doubt that every one of those is a particularly, heinous crime. So while they do take some steps to protect user privacy, better than other email service providers, the fact remains that email is inherently a protocol that requires a lot of information to be shared between parties and is notoriously difficult to encrypt. Because obviously, if you want to send a message from one account to another account and make sure that no other account can read it, you need to clearly indicate who is the sender, who is the receiver, who gets it, when did they get it, when was it sent, all that kind of stuff. It's very hard to anonymize that, to encrypt that, because you just need so much information to correctly do the service. So there you go. Ultimately, many of the security and privacy weaknesses are not necessarily their fault, but are weaknesses with email itself. Security experts have pointed out that for highly sensitive communications, email is almost never the best option. Because I know that there's no paper, but if you want to leave the most damning paper trail, email would be it. And that's why businesses love email, is because when you do day-to-day operations, you can keep track of communications very easily and go back and retroactively inspect communications through email very easily. So encrypted email, it's a thing, but it's probably still never going to be the greatest way to get a secure message from one person to another. In the wake of the incident, the company has quickly taken to revising both its privacy policy and statements made on the company's website. As of last January, the company's website insisted that no personal information is required to create your secured email address. By default, we do not keep any IP logs which can be linked to your anonymous email account. Your privacy comes first. And they have, of course, taken that out of their promotional material and off of the website. After this recent dust-up, the language has been watered down significantly, saying, quote, ProtonMail is email that respects privacy and puts people, not advertisers, first. Your data belongs to you, and our encryption ensures that. But, of course, the first one, saying that we would protect you, means that, we would protect you not only from just advertisers, but from everything. Now it's just all about advertisers. So, which honestly, ProtonMail was never the most popular email provider out there, but if that's how they're going to go about this, probably not the best tactic, considering that a lot of services out there, including Gmail, Outlook, and so on and so forth, they really don't scan your email for advertising material nowadays anyways. So there you have it. ProtonMail getting a little bit worse as government agencies get more and more aggressive. And again, it's not really ProtonMail's fault. You can't expect a smaller niche email provider to take on what is the entirety of the French, Swiss, I'm sure international community. That is not the place for one little organization. I'm sure that they're still trying to provide the best service that they can, given the limitations that they are forced to work under, but their mission is undoubtedly going, kind of down in scope. So there you have it. Now, that should be that article. We have time for just one more, and let's see. I don't think, and by the second article we had about ProtonMail essentially just reiterates everything we just talked about. How about some good news? And good news if you are really into space. The James Webb Space Telescope. If you haven't heard about this thing, then put it on your radar, and this is really, really cool. This is essentially the successor to the Hubble telescope, saying that NASA's long-delayed James Webb Space Telescope is close to entering service, where they have an official launch date, and that will be December 18th, 2021. Saying that just a few months after testing completed in late August, the hardware will reach orbit aboard the ESA-supplied Ariane 5 rocket, lifting off from French Guiana? Yeah. NASA still has to ship the telescope to the launch pad, although much of the rocket has already arrived. The James Webb Space Telescope was deemed complete in 2016, ahead of an expected launch date of 2018, but faced a number of delays due to the elaborate construction. It wasn't assembled until 2019, and factors like the COVID-19 pandemic further hindered the efforts. And that's not including earlier setbacks. Development started in 1996. Check that out, 1996, with an expected 2007 deployment, but the team scrapped much of the work and redesigned the equipment in 2005. So this thing is 20 plus years in the making, and don't forget, this thing is going to be, so much more powerful than Hubble. They mentioned that that priority also helps explain some of the technical challenges. The instrument will need to stay extremely cold to avoid interference with infrared measurements, requiring both a large sun shield and an insertion near a Sun-Earth Lagrange point. Who the heck knows? But still. They said that all the effort might just pay off. In addition to shedding more light on the early universe, the James Webb Space Telescope should help astronomers and astrophysicists fill in the gaps where Hubble wasn't enough. Infrared waves are more likely to cut through cosmic dust, and they're the primary radiation from cooler celestial bodies. There's a very real chance that the James Webb Space Telescope will help solve a string of cosmic mysteries during its brief lifetime. So, December 18th, mark your calendars. Everyone, also mark calendars, as Craig mentioned. Next Tuesday, there will be an Apple event to show off what will be available for the holiday season from Apple. Everyone, we'll cover it as best we can. Have a great day. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, have a great day. 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Thank you for tuning in to Computer America, and yeah, have a great one. Bye, everyone.